Thanks, Chris. We missed you. Yeah. Now we've got to get over you. All right. Okay, we're sparing a thought for Pastor Matt and Carol, our senior pastors, who are on the Sunshine Coast enjoying the rain. And I realise that Matt in particular is in holiday mode, because on Monday morning I got an email from him saying, "Hey mate, have you got a title for your message on Sunday?" And I wrote back and I said, "Am I preaching on Sunday?" And then he wrote back to me, he said, "I just checked the emails. I didn't ask you. Sorry." So that's all right. So we spare a thought for him. I hope when he comes back he's on the ball. All right. So my title is Helping Someone Down from a Tree. No prizes for guessing what story we'll be telling. Luke chapter 19, verses 1 to 10. Let's follow the Zacchaeus story again. Please don't say, "Oh, I know this story." I'm not sure that you do. Let's have a read of it. By the way, before I get started, regarding Wednesday nights and the series on the gifts of the Holy Spirit, and regarding Sunday afternoon and Chermside Outreach and the 100 Parables of Jesus, I make comprehensive notes available for both of those series. Those who come leave their email addresses with me, and then on a Monday morning I get the notes out to everybody that's asked for them. I want to make them available also to anybody who can't come, but who would like to follow these series. But what I would need is your name and legibly your email address. And if I have that, then you'll be getting the notes. So perhaps if I could ask you to leave that at the welcome desk as you're leaving, and just mention if it's one series or another series or both, and I'll add you to the list. And just one final thing. Just a few months ago, I published the autobiography that I've spent the last year writing of our adventures over 46 years, much of which happened in France, planting churches. Quite a story. And the book is available at the bookstore on the way out. It's called I Will Be With You. I Will Be With You. So if you're interested, go and have a look at that. And if you'd like to get a copy, there are some available today. Right, let's get into the story of Zacchaeus. Then Jesus entered and passed through Jericho. Now behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus who was a chief tax collector, and he was rich. And he sought to see who Jesus was, but could not because of the crowd, for he was of short stature. So he ran ahead and climbed up into a sycamore tree to see him, for he was going to pass that way. And when Jesus came to the place, he looked up and saw him and said to him, "Zacchaeus, make haste and come down, for today I must stay at your house." So he made haste and came down and received him joyfully. But when they saw it, they all complained, saying, "He has gone to be a guest with a man who is a sinner." Then Zacchaeus stood and said to the Lord, "Lord, Lord, I give half of my goods to the poor, and if I have taken anything from anyone by false accusation, I restore fourfold." And Jesus said to him, "Today salvation has come to this house, because he also is a son of Abraham." Now, here comes the pivotal verse for the whole of New Testament. And it's not John 3:16. It's Luke 19, verse 10. This verse explains why Jesus came. "For the Son of Man has come to seek and to save that which was lost." There it is. Not complicated, is it? So don't make it complicated. That's what summarizes the whole of the New Testament. So we have here a story about a man who climbs a tree. Surprising, isn't it? What's he doing in a tree? A monkey in a tree is normal. That's his natural habitat. A bird in a tree is building a nest. A cat in a tree is escaping from a big dog. A boy in a tree is having fun. But what is a man in a tree doing? The man's name we just read is Zacchaeus. And he lived in the city of Jericho, and like everybody else at the time, he had heard that Jesus was performing miracles, that he was drawing crowds. It was stirring up his curiosity. And he heard that Jesus was actually coming through his town. And so it was curiosity, excuse me, that sent him down into the streets so that he could see this Jesus person. We read there that he was a man of short stature, and of course when he came down, it was kind of like the red carpet at the Oscars. Everybody wanted to see the stars. And there were a lot of people there, and he couldn't get through, and he was not the most popular fellow around. And so when people saw that he was trying to see, then they would purposely kind of get closer together so he couldn't get through. He's a smart man, so he's looking for a solution. Then he sees a tree, and he says, that's my solution. He runs to the tree, climbs up into the tree, and settles in the tree. And in the tree, he becomes a spectator, an observer. Somebody who is looking on from a distance. The tree is one of the key players of this story, surprisingly. You see, because in his desire to see Jesus, this tree is going to be a help to him. But very quickly the tree becomes a problem because it becomes an obstacle. It's the very thing that is keeping him at a distance from Jesus. It's the very thing that's going to prevent this man from following Jesus. And so Jesus, in this story, his objective is to bring the man down from the tree. See? Jesus doesn't accept people following him from a distance. He doesn't accept sympathizers or spectators. He's expecting people to follow him. It's as simple as that. And when you're stuck up in a tree, you can't follow him. And so you've got to make a choice. So one of the priorities of Jesus is to take a passive spectator and turn him into a real player. It's to break the passivity and to involve the person in eternal life. Now Zacchaeus is the example of the spiritual bystander. He's up in his tree. He sees what's happening to others, but he doesn't want to get involved. Do you know anybody like that? You don't? Okay. He doesn't want to get involved, Norm. Norm says that he's going to heckle me today, so I'm ready for him. He clings to his branch, and there for a few fleeting moments, eternal life is passing him by. But Jesus will not leave him there. His love is not a love that leaves people where they are, but it's a love that goes looking for them. And my friend, if you start to show an interest in Jesus, he's coming after you. Yeah. It's one of the great lessons of this story is that people stuck in trees need help to come down. And we can help them by following Jesus' example with Zacchaeus. So what did he do to get this man to come down? Well, the first thing he did is that he stopped under the tree and looks up. You see, human beings who hide in trees think that nobody can see them. Trees can be his work. That can be a tree. Trees can be your busy schedule. Trees can be your real health, your family, your personal hurts from the past. Trees can be your religion. Trees can be your culture. Trees can be anything that keeps you at a distance from Jesus. So Jesus stops under the tree and looks up, and what does he see? He sees a Tarzan, the ape man. He sees a man that's got a wild side, that is not too bothered about what other people think. He sees a man who's a loner. He doesn't relate to people. He doesn't like relating to people very much. In history, he keeps a distance, not just from Jesus, but from just about anybody else. But in history, he keeps control of the situation. That's very important for him. He's got to keep the control, and the tree allows him to do that. The tree gives him height. With the tree, he's above other people. He's always right. He is never wrong, and no one can correct him. He says he's open, but in fact, he's stuck. He can climb a tree, but he can't climb down. He's like the cat that's fleeing from a dog. Runs up the tree. He can do that because of his claws. But he can't come back down. We need the fire brigade to come in and get him. See? It's really interesting what you see in people's faces. People's faces reveal a lot of things. That's why professional poker players, when they play their poker games, they actually, many of them wear sunglasses. Because the eyes reveal whether they have good cards or bad cards. And the other guys are looking into their eyes to read the cards that they have. And so to avoid that, they wear sunglasses so that nobody can read the reactions that they have unwittingly. You know, you can read people's faces. And on people's faces, you can see joy. Let me have a look at the faces this morning. I can see one lady who's got a lot of joy. It's Virg, it's Virginia. She's found a husband again, who's just arrived back from America. Look at that. Yeah, there's joy all over their faces. But you can see discouragement on a person's face. You can see stress. You can see tiredness. You can see contentment. Anguish, fear, confidence. When you look into someone's face, it tells you a lot about the person. Imagine a father coming home. He's got 3 young sons. And he lines up his 3 sons. And he looks at them sternly. And he said, "Which one of you ate all of Daddy's chocolates?" And all 3 of them look at him and go, "Not me." But one of them goes, "Not me." Well, we know who took them, don't we? You see, Jesus was looking into the face of a man that was asocial, antisocial, and he could read the story of his life. And so what did Zacchaeus see in Jesus' face? Because, you know, that's the way it happens, isn't it? When you look into someone's face, they're looking into yours. So what did he see in Jesus' face? Well, he had this unnerving experience of having somebody who liked him. Jesus didn't flee eye contact. He looked at him. And he could sense that there was love coming from this man. He could sense someone who understood what he was going through. He could sense someone who wasn't in a hurry to go. And then what really nailed it, as Jesus looked up into him, and it meant that Zacchaeus was kind of like undone, like he was naked before this Jesus person. It was when he used his name and said, "Zacchaeus." He knows me. You know, there's something about a name, a person's name. There's something about a name, isn't it? Jason, what a beautiful name. It is, isn't it? Why? Because it's yours. That's right. You see, when I'm in the streets, you know, I hear, "John." Do I turn around? No. "Bob." No. "Peter." No. "Vince." Yes. That's me. That's my name. See, What's your name? What's your name? Because your name is the most beautiful name. It's yours. It's your story. It's who you are. And when Jesus uses your name, you suddenly realize that this is getting really personal. Hey, he wasn't going to buy into this. He was just coming to have a look from a distance, and Jesus is just moving the goalposts here. Zacchaeus, oh, that's going to make a big difference. You see, he could have said, hey, you. He didn't. He could have said, Mr. Tax Collector, sir. He didn't. The only thing that mattered was that this ape man in the tree was a person. A person with a story. A person that Jesus loved. And so he did that with Mary in the garden, didn't he? She thought he was a gardener. How wrong can you be? How wrong can you be? And all he had to do was to reveal himself by using her name. My grandfather died at 94 years of age. And he said to me before he died one time, he said, you know, they say that old people lose their memories. And my grandfather said, I don't really think that's true. I think for some people that's true. But I think just as you get older, you make less of an effort to remember people's names. And so when someone says to me, oh, I'm hopeless with names, they're telling me that they're not making an effort to be personal. Are you hearing me? Yeah. And so Jesus knew the name. Say, oh, well, he had words of knowledge. True. We don't have necessarily the word of knowledge to know a person's name. But when someone gives you their name, try and remember it. You will never have a personal relationship with anybody without knowing their name. And so things are getting a little bit hot here now for Zacchaeus in the tree. But now it goes further. He disturbs him. He wants him to come down for the simple reason that Jesus doesn't climb trees. He doesn't say, hang on up there, I'm coming. No, he's not coming. You're the one that's coming. You see, we say, well, you mustn't mix up Jesus' compassion with sympathy. You mustn't think that Jesus' compassion is empathy. You know what empathy is? Empathy is wanting to climb into a sinking boat so that the person in it doesn't drown alone. Think about it. That's empathy. It doesn't really help the situation, does it? But Jesus' compassion is not that. Jesus' compassion is to change the situation of the person. And so we say, well, you know, Jesus is a gentleman. Well, sometimes he's not. You see, we say, well, we need to respect people and be polite, and that's true. And we say, well, I respect your choice. Well, good for you. But what if it's the wrong choice? What if a tourist wants to have a swim in a crocodile-infected river? What do you say, I respect your choice? What if it's wrong? And you don't say anything because you're too polite, because you don't want to disturb the person, because you don't want to sort of hope that he doesn't think ill of you. Hey, listen, if he's in danger, you've got to do something. You've got to say something. You've got to try and get him out of that situation. You see, for Jesus to love Zacchaeus meant that he had to put him under pressure. He had to disturb him and unsettle him in a good way, in a kind way, but in a real way. And so he says, now, Zacchaeus, you're not a monkey. What are you doing in a tree? Come down. Leave the safety of your branch. You see, sometimes people need a gentle push. Anybody here like that? If you need a gentle push, Let me oblige. Then the third thing that happens is that Jesus invites himself home. I mean, this is going too far, really. I mean, Jesus, he takes the initiative. He wants intimacy. He's not satisfied with a meeting in a public place. He wants to go in where you live. He wants to go in where your personal issues are being played out. He wants to meet your wife. He wants to know where you cry at night alone. He wants to go where you sleep, where you eat, how you are with your kids. Jesus is not going to content himself with a meeting in a public place. And so he says, I'm coming to your place tonight, Zacchaeus. I could have stayed elsewhere. I could have booked a room in a hotel. I'm coming to your place. He didn't say, Zacchaeus, would that be all right? Zacchaeus, would you please call your wife to see if that's okay? Can you imagine Zacchaeus sort of going, picking up his phone and sort of ringing and saying, hello, darling. Listen, how's your day going? Are you right? Okay. Well, it's going to get a whole lot better soon. What's happening? Well, you know, you heard about Jesus? Yes. Well, he wants to come to our place. Isn't that good? Yeah. So when? Well, now. So we'll be there in 5 minutes. Can you pick up the socks off the floor and put them in the washing bin? And, you know, I don't know, but he's coming. Did he say, would you please check? Would that be all right? He say, I'm coming. He say, hey, is that right to do that to people? Well, people who are stuck in trees, yes. If you're stuck in a tree, I'm coming after you. I don't want to come and have a cup of coffee with you. Why? Because I don't want to leave you there. You're not going to get eternal life up in your tree. You're not going to get saved up in your tree. You're only going to get saved if you listen to what Jesus is saying and you let him into your house. You see? So you can't play it by your rules. You can't just say, well, Jesus, you know, let's meet halfway. No, you don't meet halfway up a tree. Yeah, Jesus, come up the tree and let's talk more about it. No. We're not talking up the tree. We're talking at your place. That's where it's got to happen. And so suddenly the hour of truth has come for Zacchaeus. What's he going to do? And so we're going to hit the pause button like with a video, and we suddenly see the image frozen. And we see the conflict in his mind, the inner conflict that rages in a human soul before the ultimate decision. What am I going to do? Do I stay in my tree where I feel secure, where I'm controlling things, or do I come down and let this guy in and I will lose the control of my life? Because he'll want it. On his left shoulder, there's the devil. Watch out, Zacchaeus. Be careful. You don't understand everything. You don't know what you're letting yourself into. You're not controlling this. You're not ready for it. You mustn't rush into it. Oh, right, yes, that's true. And then on his right shoulder, there's an angel that's whispering in his ear, yes, but with Jesus, you've experienced a love like no one has ever given to you. And what if Jesus never passes under your tree again? He's here, he's inviting you. Now's the time. What's he going to do? Zacchaeus' heart is beating fast, and suddenly he listens to his heart rather than his head, and he falls from the tree like a ripened fruit. His choice is made, and the victory is won. And when he saw him come down, Jesus said, for surely salvation has come to this house. Because he came down from his tree. I was asked to, many years ago, speak at a conference, or a youth camp actually it was, at Rockhampton. And I was invited to do the youth camp on the Friday night, Saturday morning, Saturday night, and then be in the church Sunday morning and Sunday night. That was the program. And so I got to the Saturday night meeting, and as I was preaching, there was a young guy that suddenly got up and walked out, briskly. At the end of the meeting, I talked to the youth pastor, and I said, you saw that guy that walked out during the preaching? I said, so who was he? Oh, he said, his name is John, and he comes from time to time, turns up when the young people are having something special, but he's never really given his life to the Lord. I said, oh, really? So that was the end of the youth camp, and the next morning it was church, and I was really hoping that this guy John would turn up. I sort of felt that there was something happening in him. And so I looked over the congregation as I got to the platform, and I couldn't see him. Probably a couple of hundred people there. And I was disappointed because I cared for him. You know, please don't think that we are uncaring, because each person does matter, and we do notice. You know, you are not a sea of eyes and noses. You are a people, and we see you. You see me, but I see you. And so there was just one final opportunity. It was a Sunday evening service. And when I got up on the platform, there he was up the back. At the end of my message, I did my altar call and invited people to come to Christ and to come to the front. And this young man came down, and he came down briskly again. And by the time he got to me, he collapsed into my arms and wept and wept and wept. And I thought, wow, I need to find out what's going on here. And so when he came to again, I sat him down. I said, John, why did you leave last night's meeting? And why didn't we see you this morning? And he said, well, as I was listening to you last night, I thought you have been set up, mate. Somebody has told that preacher all about you, and that preacher was just going for you. And I just wasn't accepting it. I was not buying into it, and I just walked out angry. And I said, really? I don't know you from a bar of soap, mate. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you've been through. You got a problem. And I said, then what? And then he said he went home and he tried to sleep. Well, when you're angry, you don't sleep very well, do you? Well, he didn't sleep very well at all. In fact, he didn't sleep at all. And next morning he got up and he was still angry, and he got his canoe and he took it to the river and put the canoe to the water and started to paddle and paddle and paddle and paddle, and every stroke of the paddle was a stroke in anger against me and against God. I was in good company. And he went for miles like this. And he got to the end of himself, where he just got tired, he just couldn't go any further. And when he stopped, so did the storm stop in his heart. And he broke down in his canoe and he gave his life to Jesus in the canoe. And then he wanted to come back as quickly as possible to get to the morning meeting, but he was too far gone, too far away. And so he couldn't wait to get to the night meeting. And this is the young guy that I was holding in my arms. And I believe, because of another man who was saved at that same camp, who then became a leading pastor in South Australia, he knew the guy that I'm talking about, John. And he said he's still in the same church so many years later. He came down from his tree. He was in a very high tree. He would come, justify himself by saying, well, I'm a believer. I sort of believe. But he was not coming down from his tree. But he did. And it changed everything.